London, 1489. You wake before the bells, unsure for a moment which city holds you. The ceiling beams above your face are darker than the ones you grew beneath. Thicker, lower. They seem to hover with quiet authority, as if even the wood here belongs more fully than you do. The air is wet, not the clean wetness of rain over open ground, but a soaked heaviness. Coal smoke pressed into damp wool. River breath creeping through cracks in the shutters. You inhale and feel it settle behind your eyes. Somewhere beyond the alley, a cartwheel strikes stone in uneven rhythm. A man coughs. A gull screams over the Thames, the sound tearing through morning like fabric splitting at a seam. London is already awake. You lie still a moment longer, listening for familiarity. There is none. No church bell you recognize. No vendor's call that once meant comfort. The city produces sound without context, and your body does not yet know which noises require attention. You sit up. The straw mattress shifts beneath you with a brittle sigh. Even that sound feels exposed. You move carefully, aware of how easily thin walls translate motion into announcement. Your clothes hang near the door. You study them as if they might have changed overnight. They have not. The wool is sturdy but cut differently than what London men favor. The shoulders sit a fraction too narrow. The dye is a tone more common in the region you left behind. Nothing dramatic, nothing theatrical. Just enough? You dress slowly, fingers pressing along seams as though you might flatten their difference by force. You consider folding the cuffs inward. You decide against it. Alteration invites inspection. Outside, the alley holds the color of watered ink. Puddles remain from yesterday's rain, reflecting broken pieces of timbered facades above. You step between them, but your heel grazes the edge of one, and cold slips into your shoe. The chill climbs your ankle. You do not react. At the alley's mouth, Cheapside stretches outward in gradual animation. Canvas awnings sag with moisture. Apprentices sweep thresholds. A woman balances a basket against her hip and walks with the steady, practiced gait of someone who has never doubted where she stands. You pause half a heartbeat before entering the current of bodies. The pause costs you. A man behind you clicks his tongue in irritation when you hesitate. You move forward at once, but you have already revealed uncertainty. The flow of the street parts around you, not smoothly, but with small corrections, shoulders angling, eyes flicking, pace adjusting to accommodate your miscalculation. You learn quickly that London does not slow. It redirects. Near a baker's stall, warmth spills outward in thick waves. Yeast and charred crust bloom in the cold air. Your stomach tightens before you consciously decide to approach. Inside, 3 men move with compact efficiency. Flour dust floats in pale shafts of light. One of them looks up when your shadow interrupts the doorway. His gaze rests on your face. Not hostile, not welcoming, registering. You place coins on the counter. Your fingers hesitate just slightly before releasing them, as if the metal might also betray origin. He picks them up, weighing them with more attention than necessary. His thumb traces the edge of one piece. You feel the silence stretch. You say nothing. When he hands you the loaf, your nod is measured, controlled. You turn away before your voice can complicate the exchange. The bread is hotter than expected. Steam warms your palm through the crust. You walk while tearing it open, letting the heat sting your fingertips. The taste is denser than what you remember from home. More salt, less air. You chew slowly, watching the market expand. Voices overlap in accents thicker than yours, yet theirs belong. Bargains rise and fall in tones that bend, but never fracture the rhythm of the place. You catch familiar words distorted into new shapes. Meaning arrives a fraction too late each time, like an echo that refuses to align with its source. A fishmonger gestures sharply when you drift too near his display. You step back at once. Your apology emerges before you can temper it. The vowel stretches. His eyes sharpen, not in anger, but in recognition. The recognition of something unrooted. He dismisses you with a brief motion of his wrist and returns to his customers. You continue walking. The bells begin at last, layered, uneven, rippling across rooftops. Their sound presses against your ribs. In your own city, bells once guided you. Here, they remind you that time is kept without consulting your memory. You swallow the last of the bread. The towers ahead rise in irregular stone silhouettes against a pale sky. Smoke drifts low, snagging on chimneys. The Thames glints between buildings like a blade turned sideways. You are inside London, but the city has not yet decided where you fit within its weight. By mid-morning, the streets feel narrower, as if the city has tightened its belt. Bodies fill the lanes with purpose now. Carts grind through mud that has begun to churn into a uniform gray. The air carries more voices, more iron sounds, more impatience. You adjust without thinking. Shoulders angled, hands kept close, gaze forward but not challenging. You borrow the posture of men who move as though the ground itself is obligated to make way. Your work waits near the river. You reach the warehouse by following smell before sight. Tar, wet rope, sheep oil, and the Thames underneath it all, metallic and tired. The river does not sparkle here. It drags. Barges ride low in the water, their planks dark with damp. Gulls hang above them like scraps of paper caught in wind. Inside, the warehouse swallows daylight into dusty beams. Wool bales stack in pale walls that seem soft until you touch them and find their stubborn weight. Men move in short, practiced routes between piles. No wasted motion, no unnecessary speech. The room hums with labor the way a hive hums with threat. You remove your outer coat and step in. The foreman crosses the floor without hurry, boots striking a steady, confident rhythm. When he reaches you, he slows. Not enough to be called a stop. Enough for your skin to notice. His eyes take inventory. Your hands, your sleeves, the set of your jaw. The pause is brief, but it leaves an imprint. He gestures toward a rope coil and a stack of bales. The meaning is clear, even if the words are clipped. You begin. Wool fibers rasp against your wrists. The rope is rougher than what you used at home. Stiffer, less forgiving. Your first knot holds, but you feel its imperfection immediately. You tighten it anyway, then tighten it again, as if force can replace familiarity. A man beside you reaches over at one point, adjusting the angle of your binding with efficient fingers. He does not look at you. Correction, not companionship. Still, your relief is quick and shameful. You murmur thanks. Your accent blooms in the open space between you. His hands pause for a fraction of a breath before continuing. Not disgust, not laughter. Something colder, a quiet noting, as if he has placed you in a category without needing to name it. The day moves on. You lift, drag, brace, knot. Your shoulders heat under labor. Sweat gathers beneath your collar and turns cool whenever you stop moving. The warehouse has its own weather. Warm pockets, cold currents, dust that clings to the inside of your throat until swallowing feels like scraping. At midday, you step outside to breathe. The Thames presses against the docks with dull persistence. Your lungs pull in river air and find it no cleaner, just different. You sit on an overturned crate and eat a portion of bread. It has hardened. Your jaw works harder than you want it to. Two boys run past with sticks, their feet slapping wet boards. One slows to stare at you openly, gaze tracing your cap, your beard, your posture. He mutters something to the other. They laugh, small, quick, and careless. You look down at your hands. Wool dust settled into your skin's creases like pale grit. You rub your palms together, not to warm them, but to erase an idea you can't quite name. When you return inside, the pace has sharpened. A bale has split, wool spilling like torn stuffing across the floor. The foreman's movements grow shorter, his patience thinner. Work accelerates in response. You push to match it. Your fingers fumble once with the rope. Barely a mistake, barely visible. But the foreman sees. His gaze holds you longer now, weighing time, risk, cost. You feel your footing in this city for what it is, not ground, but a narrow plank over water. You have no guild brothers here, no cousin on the same street, no shared childhood that can soften a moment of doubt. Only labor, and the knowledge that labor is always being measured. If you want to keep living inside this city with your own eyes, stay close. Because the smallest slip here doesn't fall loud. It simply changes how everyone looks at you. The afternoon settles into your muscles before you notice it in the light. Your arms move with a heaviness that feels older than the day. Each lift leaves a faint tremor behind. Wool dust clings to the sweat at your temples, forming a thin paste that dries and tightens when you forget to wipe it away. You are assigned to the scale. The iron hook hangs from a timber beam darkened by years of smoke. The weighing plate sways slightly even when empty, as though remembering previous burdens. Beside it, the clerk stands with his ledger open, quill poised. Ink glistens thick at its tip. You hoist the first bale into place. The hook groans. The beam answers with a low complaint. The plate dips, then hesitates before settling. You watch the measure carefully, waiting for stillness before speaking. You call the number. It leaves your mouth shaped by another geography. The clerk's eyes lift. He repeats the weight, but the sound is different. Clipped, tightened, sharpened. The number returns to you altered, as if it has passed through a sieve. You nod. The next bale is heavier. You feel it immediately in your spine. Your grip shifts. The hook knocks once against iron with a sharp report that makes two men glance over. You steady it before it swings too far. You call the number again. The clerk corrects it again. No mockery, no smiles, just repetition. With each bale, you adjust your tongue before speaking. You flatten certain sounds. You force consonants to land harder against your teeth. The effort is small, but it accumulates. By the fifth bale, your voice feels less like a reflex and more like a decision. Outside, light thins. The Thames turns the color of hammered pewter. Wind presses briefly through the open door, stirring loose fibers into drifting spirals. They catch in your lashes and along your collar. One bale slips as you lift it, the rope loosening under strain. For a breath too long, it tilts. Your hands shoot forward. You press your forearm into the wool, absorbing its weight against your ribs. The iron hook swings violently, striking the beam with a hollow clang that silences the nearest conversation. Your heart strikes harder than the hook did. The foreman approaches. You retie the rope quickly, but not frantically. You remember the adjustment shown to you earlier, the angle of tension, the way the knot must bite into itself. You pull until your fingers burn. The bale steadies. The foreman's boots stop within arm's reach. You feel his presence more than see it. Your breathing slows deliberately. You do not look up immediately. When you do, his expression offers nothing. He studies the knot. He studies your hands. Then he turns away. The room resumes its hum, but something has shifted again. The man who once corrected you does not step in this time, when your next knot takes longer. He watches, waiting to see whether you can repair yourself. You can. Evening gathers along the ceiling beams in uneven shadows. Oil lamps are lit, their flames wavering whenever the door opens. The scale's silhouette stretches across the floor like a crooked crossbeam. By the final entry in the ledger, your forearms tremble openly. The clerk closes the book with deliberate care, as though sealing judgment inside. Outside, London has changed shape. Torches burn along the busier lanes. Tavern doors release bursts of laughter that dissolve quickly into colder air. Clusters of men stand close, their familiarity forming invisible walls you do not test. 2 laborers from the warehouse walk ahead of you. Their conversation flows in shared references, names of parishes, complaints about dues, a cousin near Southwark. You recognize the words, but not the anchors behind them. You remain a pace behind, not pushed back, not invited forward, simply unthreaded from the weave. The bells ring compline somewhere beyond the rooftops. The sound is softer than in morning, less declarative, more resigned. As you turn into your narrow alley, you realize something new has taken root beneath your fatigue. The city is not trying to expel you. It is waiting to see whether you will wear yourself thin enough to pass through it without resistance. Night presses closer in London than you expect. It does not descend cleanly. It gathers in corners, thickens beneath eaves, pools in the seams between buildings. Torchlight fights it in uneven circles that never quite touch. You walk through alternating bands of glow and shadow, your steps adjusting to what your eyes cannot fully claim. The river sounds larger after dark. From somewhere beyond sight, wood knocks against wood in patient intervals. Chains drag. Water slaps the piers with a force that feels deliberate. You sense the Thames moving even when you cannot see it, a steady body shifting against restraint. A cluster of apprentices spills from a tavern near the bridge, their laughter swollen with ale. Their cloaks swing wide. Their boots strike mud without caution. You shift to the edge of the lane before they reach you, offering them width before they demand it. One brushes your sleeve. He stops. His gaze travels over you slowly, beginning at your boots, climbing to your face. There is curiosity there, calculation, the faintest flicker of challenge that expects either apology or defiance. You offer neither. You incline your head just enough to acknowledge his presence without surrendering to it. The gesture costs you something small and invisible. The others tug him onward, their attention already loosening. They leave. Your pulse does not immediately follow. You continue toward your lodging, aware of how easily attention can settle and how slowly it lifts. Inside the common room, heat from the hearth strikes your shins first. The air smells of boiled cabbage, damp leather, and smoke trapped too long indoors. Men sit close together on benches worn smooth by repetition. Their bodies lean toward one another with the ease of shared years. You choose a place at the far end, not entirely removed, not entirely within. Conversation moves around you like current around a stone. Guild disputes, rumors about shipments delayed by weather, a mention of the king's negotiations abroad. You recognize the names, but they do not attach themselves to your own history. They float past without anchoring. A man from the warehouse glances at you once, briefly. His expression holds no edge now, just awareness. You lift your bowl of stew. The broth is thin, fat beads drift across its surface like small islands. You swallow and feel the warmth travel downward, meeting the ache in your stomach halfway. Your body is learning the city faster than your mind. Upstairs, your room greets you with colder air. You sit on the bed and remove your boots slowly. When you peel back your stockings, the skin beneath is reddened where damp leather pressed too long. You rub your feet until sensation returns fully. You notice something in that motion. You are no longer replaying every interaction from the day. No longer cataloging each glance or correction with sharp attention. The edges are dulling, not because they hurt less, but because you cannot afford to hold them all. You lie back and stare at the ceiling beams. The wood no longer feels foreign. It simply exists above you, indifferent but stable. From outside, raised voices ripple briefly through the alley. Not alarm, just night compressing itself through narrow space. You realize the question has shifted. You arrived wondering whether London would accept you. Now you wonder how much adjustment you can sustain before you no longer recognize the shape of your own thoughts. Sleep comes unevenly, and in the dark, the city continues breathing without pause. You wake with the sensation that something is already wrong. Not visibly, not loudly, just a faint imbalance in the air, like a room where a chair has been moved slightly off its usual place. The bells have not yet begun, but the alley carries more movement than usual. Footsteps pass in quicker succession. A cart rolls by earlier than it should. You dress with less hesitation now, fingers finding familiar motions in the dark. Your sleeves remain as they are. You no longer fold them inward. Outside, the sky hangs low and swollen, threatening rain without committing to it. Smoke from morning fires presses downward instead of rising. The city feels held beneath a lid. At the warehouse, tension sits near the ceiling beams like trapped heat. The foreman stands beside the ledger table with the clerk. Their voices are low, but the rhythm is clipped. You step inside and feel the air adjust around you, not sharply, but perceptibly. A shipment from upriver has arrived light, one bale missing. The absence is small in size but large in consequence. Numbers must reconcile. Responsibility must land somewhere. You feel it before anyone looks at you. You are still the newest body in the room. Work begins anyway. It always does. Bales are shifted, counted, recorded. The clerk's quill scratches faster today. The ink pressed slightly harder into parchment. You are assigned again to binding. Less visibility, less speech. Your hands move with steadier confidence now. The knots tighten cleanly. Fibers no longer scrape you by surprise. You anticipate their resistance. Sweat gathers along your spine despite the chill. The foreman passes behind you once. His steps slow, then resume. No accusation, no reassurance, just proximity. Minutes stretch. The missing bale remains unaccounted for. Eyes flick occasionally toward the door, toward the river, toward one another. No one speaks the thought aloud, but you feel it circling. Error, theft, negligence. You continue working. Your breathing stays even. Your movements deliberate. You do not rush to appear useful. You simply are. A runner arrives from the dock at last, breath fogging in quick bursts. The miscount occurred during loading. The bale never left the barge. The room releases tension unevenly. Some shoulders drop at once, others take longer. The foreman nods once, sharp and contained. The clerk makes a firm notation, sealing the explanation in ink. No one looks at you directly, but something subtle has changed. You realize the suspicion did not sharpen toward you as quickly as it might have days ago. It hovered, it evaluated, it hesitated. Your labor has begun to weigh something back. At midday, rain finally commits. It falls thin but steady, tapping against the warehouse roof in soft insistence. When you step outside briefly to secure a cart, droplets gather along your brow and slip downward. the water smells faintly of soot. Your sleeves darken with damp. You do not adjust them. You stand for a moment beneath the low sky and feel the rain cool your overheated skin. The Thames swells slightly with each drop, indifferent to miscounts and men. You understand now that the city's threat is rarely dramatic. It lies in convenience, in how easily responsibility can slide toward the least anchored name on a ledger. You are still that name, but less so than before. When you return inside, the boy who arrived yesterday struggles with a rope that refuses his grip. His hands are too soft. His knot slips twice. You notice the way eyes shift toward him now. The calculation has found a newer target. You do not intervene. You tie your own bail and move to the next. And for the first time since arriving, the weight in your chest is not entirely about surviving the gaze of others. It is about recognizing how quickly you have learned to step aside from it. Rain lingers into the next morning, not heavy, but persistent enough to soften everything it touches. The alley has turned to dark paste beneath your boots. Water threads along the edges of stone and disappears into unseen drains. You walk without searching for stable ground now. Your steps have memorized the dips. London no longer surprises your feet. At the warehouse, the roof ticks faintly as droplets strike and slide. The air smells richer and damp. Wool swelling slightly with moisture, rope fibers thickening, timber beams exhaling years of absorbed river air. You begin work without waiting for instruction. No one pauses when you enter. The foreman nods once in passing, already focused elsewhere. The gesture is brief, almost careless. It carries no warmth, it carries no doubt. Your body moves through the tasks with a rhythm that no longer feels borrowed. Lift, brace, knot, pull. The rope bites where you expect it to. Your fingers anticipate the resistance before it forms. When you speak a number at the scale, the vowel lands closer to London's shape without conscious correction. You hear the difference. It does not feel like surrender. It feels like accommodation. The boy beside you fumbles again. His knot loosens under strain. The foreman's gaze sharpens briefly in his direction. You sense the familiar narrowing of space around him, the way air seems to thin when evaluation settles. For a moment, your hands hesitate over your own rope. You could offer correction. You could remain still. You choose something smaller. You tie your knot more visibly, slower than necessary, allowing him to see the angle without turning it into instruction. Whether he understands is uncertain. Whether you intended to help is also uncertain. Work continues. By afternoon, the rain stops. A pale strip of light breaks through cloud and glances across the Thames, turning its surface briefly silver before fading again. The city exhales steam in faint curls from rooftops and cloaks. You step outside to stretch your back. Cheapside hums in steady commerce. Vendors argue with familiarity. A woman brushes past you, her shoulder striking yours lightly before she continues without looking back. No pause, no measuring glance. Your body registers the contact as ordinary. You stand still for a breath longer than needed. When you first arrived, every brush of fabric felt like a question. Now it feels like weather, impersonal, inevitable. Inside the warehouse, the clerk closes the ledger at day's end with a soft but confident motion. Ink dries where your name appears among the others, no longer isolated at the bottom of the page. You study it briefly. The letters are still shaped differently than those around them, but they remain. As dusk settles, the bells begin again, layered, uneven, familiar in their unfamiliarity. Their vibration moves through your ribs without resistance. You walk back through streets that no longer tilt beneath your awareness. You avoid puddles without thinking. You pass tavern doors without bracing for inspection. The city still does not know you. It simply uses you. And you have learned to use it in return. In your small room, you sit on the edge of the bed and remove your boots. Your shoulders ache in a way that feels earned rather than threatened. The ceiling beams above you no longer press downward. They hold. You understand something now that you did not when you crossed into London for the first time. Belonging here is not granted. It accumulates in increments so small they nearly disappear. A knot that holds, a number spoken cleanly, a glance that lingers less. You have not been welcomed. You have not been expelled. You persist. And in 1489, in a city that measures men by usefulness more than origin, persistence may be the closest shape to acceptance you are allowed. How long could you continue reshaping your voice, your posture, your instincts before the memory of your first self begins to blur? Tomorrow the bells will ring again. The river will rise and fall. The ledger will open, and you will step forward, not fully known, not fully unseen, continuing inside a city that never stops weighing what it keeps.